Okay, what you see in front of you is a Variac. It's a single phase motor, and 200 and goes up to 250 volts. On the front here, you'll see you'll have a connection for the power and for output, and then it tells you up here what your voltage is up to. Should be 220, but it goes a little higher. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm setting this up for a customer of mine who brought in an amplifier which is from Japan, and the Japanese voltage is about 100 volts. So he asked me if I can change out the transformer. The problem is the transformer costs more than the amp. It's kind of an entry-level Japanese amp, entry-level market amp, and it's only about 5,000 baht in Thailand, where I am, and I believe that's maybe about $120 something, I would guess, American, without looking, it up on the internet at the time of this shooting. So yeah, not really expensive, and to change out the transformer would cost more than it costs for this Variac. This Variac cost about 1,000 baht, which is maybe 20 something dollars US, or now maybe even $19. Anyway, I suggested this because he's not a working musician. He doesn't have to lug this around with him all over the place. So this is a good solution rather than changing out the transformer. And also, during this, he had bought another Japanese amp. So now he's got two he can use and set with this. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is take the knob off, and I want to take this plate off, and I'll explain in a minute. Now you use just a very small flathead screwdriver to take this off. I've already done that, and you have to be careful. You have a very small, should I say thin, slot for a flathead in there. So you see this one here, and it has a nut there that fits into this slot. So if you take it out too far, this nut will fall down because you're like this, and it'll fall into here. Then you have to take everything apart in order to get at it, or turn it upside down and shake it, and you don't know what damage it's going to do. And you have two of these, one here and one here, relatively close. Okay, so just loosen them slowly, a few turns at a time, until it comes off. When it comes off, you find a little container like this or whatever to put your parts. Never leave your parts on the table, because if you hit it or knock it over, they're gone forever. You never know if you'll find the bolts that you need again. Okay, and here you have 4 screws, just a basic Phillips head. Take these out, which hold on the plate, and pay attention to the location of your plate. Here it's easy because here's the front, and you see you have the 0 and 250, so you turn clockwise here to get to 250 volts. So you might be wondering why am I taking this apart? Well, I'm going to set this at 100 volts for him, or maybe just a little bit more, maybe 105 volts. And I'm going to put an obstruction here, glue it or screw it to the plate. And on this, I'll put a screw and bolt it through this. I'll drill through this cap and bolt it on, so when I turn it and it comes to this obstruction, the tip of that bolt will be long enough to hit that obstruction, and it won't go any farther past the 105 volts. And you might be wondering why I'm doing that. Well, as a technician, we work with Variacs every day, so we know them pretty well. But if you take a person who's never worked with a Variac before, and they're turning it up and something goes wrong with their amp, capacitor pops for whatever reason, and they're turning it, they might panic and turn it too far to the right rather than to the left, rather than counterclockwise. So if you increase the voltage past 100 volts that's needed for a Japanese model, and let's say you go up to 175, you're going to fry that unit. You've just spent 1,000 baht to destroy a 5,000 baht amp, and you're not going to be very happy about it. So the best thing to do is to set these for the customers if that is the only option. I do recommend that if they have a cheap amp and they're going to a different country, stay away from these. I'll show you in a minute. You have to be careful of these converters, you know, particularly the maximum wattage that's there. A lot of times people, they don't buy the right wattage, they just buy the converter thinking, okay, it's going to go to 110, and it fries everything. And these aren't particularly built very well, and the good ones are pretty expensive anyway. So if you ask me to choose between an expensive converter or Variac, I prefer a Variac because you can use it. It's multi-purpose. You can use it for many, many different things, and it's a great thing to have. I mean, that is where the Brown sound, Eddie Van Halen's Brown sound, originated from, his use of the Variac. So yeah, we'll take this plate off, but before you do that, don't rely on this voltage meter here. Don't rely that this is set exactly. Sometimes it can be a little bit off. So what you should do is, you know, hook up a plug or a temporary plug to the output here, or just use your meter on these right here, and put a temporary plug on there for now, and just measure what your output is when you're turning this. Does it match up perfectly, or if it's off? And note if it's off by 5 volts or maybe 1 or 2 volts. This way, when you set it, you know for sure that when you're setting it at 105, it is 105. So sometimes they're perfectly on, sometimes they're a little bit off. So just be careful. Okay. So just take this off and put these off to the side, and then we're ready to start working on this. Okay, I'm gonna start with this outlet. I bought this outlet over the local place here in Thailand. Yours will probably be different depending on where you're from. This one, I believe we just push that in and it should slide out here. Okay. And then this is a snap-on part, snaps over the top. This is in Thailand. Okay. Well, that's the top part. And then here we have our screws. Over here our wires can go to hook these up. Okay. Now this I'm gonna put here on the side. I'm gonna mount it on the side here. And I believe, let me see. I can probably get away with some ties and tape, double-sided tape. Between them both, it should hold it nicely and firmly in place. Let me get this figured out and then I'll be back. On further inspection, I wanted to make sure I knew how to take this apart. This snaps out of here. Just take your screwdriver and kind of edge it out here, and it'll snap out, it'll come out. And then you have this part, which you take your screwdriver under here and just pry them. Make sure you take off the center screw first. There's a center screw right there. You take that out, and then you snap these back and it comes off. And I want to look inside here because all the directions are in Thai and they're awful drawings. You can't tell what is what. At least with this I can see where the wires go. And if we look here, we can see that these go to the prongs. So one will be neutral, one will be power. And then we see this one is the ground. So we got ground, and this can either be neutral or power, and same with this one. So at least we know what goes here. We have two here, right? And one down there. So we already know what they are. So we can't make any mistakes when it comes to this now. Okay, I snapped this back together. The next thing I want to do is, where do I want to put this outlet? So I'd like to put the outlet to the right of the meter here. And what I'm going to do is make sure I have it facing the right position. The wire goes down here. You can see that's the breakaway part to put the wires in. So we'll put it this way, and I'm looking at this because I can use ties to attach here. So I want to see where I can get a good bite with tape, which would be great up here. I'd get the best bite up there, and some okay down here. So let's go for, let's say, right about, yeah, right about here. Okay, as you see, I put the double-sided tape on there, and I'm going to take this side off. I'm going to peel that off. I'm going to put that right on there and stick that on there after I clean off everything with glue. Okay, I ran into some problems, and I decided to take the whole cage off. There's 5 screws around the base that hold this on, so not a problem. I stuck that on there, and then I came up with something. Right now it's maybe not the best solution in the world, but I think it'll work. I took a wooden stick kind of like this, and I cut a piece off like that, so it's kind of thick enough, strong enough, kind of like bamboo, if you will, so that we see the ties are here. So we have the sticky tape on there, but you know, weather changes, everything gets hot, so you don't know what's going to happen. So we need to be able to fit across this area here, so we have some support for this side when we tie them, and it doesn't slip out. So it's probably hard for you to see this, but I got big fingers. Okay, so make sure that's centered out. before you tighten down. See how I have that stick in there? If I do everything right, hopefully this helps. I don't know. Okay, so now we can put this back on and screw that back down because, oh wait, you know what? In this part here, yeah, this part here, there's a screw. So what I'm gonna do is put a washer here. I'll take a little Dremel and grind this off. I get this off so the metal is showing. Put the washer over that so there's a good connection, and we can solder that down and then screw it down so that we can put the ground wire here. Okay, I'm going to grind the areas that I want to make a good connection with for ground. Here, I'll just use a little Dremel. I believe that should work. Let's see if that will do it. I think that's doing it. Let's see. How about that? Okay, let's do the other side and clean up. Put the hot air gun on. Hopefully this side works as good. That's it. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm getting ready to hook up the socket. Did a little cleaning. In Southeast Asia, the wiring can be atrocious, to say the least. Leaves a lot left to be desired. Their coloring code is all over the place because you got electrical stuff coming from everywhere. But anyway, they somehow manage. Anyway, I do have a brown here, and brown in Thailand is positive and blue is neutral. So I'll go ahead and make this one neutral. Open up large enough for it to fit in there, and then we can screw it back down. Double check it, make sure it's nice and solid. When you have this space going around, you use this space to feed the wire down in there, and that'll hold the wire in place very nicely, actually. That will be our ground. When we're on that side, we'll just use this for the ground. That's the only thing I have, but it'll work. little bit more wire. Good bite on it this time. Okay. And there's our ground. And from this side we can put our positive straight down. Okay. Don't need that anymore, so we can make sure this is correct way. We don't want to put it this way because that's the ground. Here's the ground, so make sure everything lines up right before you push it in. Okay, there you go. Let me go find some heat shrink. Be able to run it this way, like that. Okay, let's just put my shrink wrap over here. Let's shrink this. Okay. Bring your other piece up. And there, I believe we should have enough now to get us over here. Yes, we do. Perfect. Okay, be right back. Now we can attach the socket box on this end. Now I just have to take an older wire, cut off it here, and connect it here, and we'll be done. I'll be right back. So finishing up now. Get everything fixed in place. I bought this set a while ago and I just love it, you know, very inexpensive, but man, perfect. Have all different kind of hooks in it and everything, and I just love this thing to death. You know, every once in a while you buy inexpensive things or cheap things that, you know, you say, doesn't cost that much, let me try it, and it ends up that you end up loving it more than some of the expensive tools you have. Am I right? This is just like a perfect little set with different size hooks in it, and it works out great at grabbing things. Works out so perfectly. And just add one more. And maybe two more. See, that hook works so good. Perfect. How about that? Without that hook, you'd be driving yourself nuts. I put it in the wrong way. Goes to show you. Talk too soon. Okay. that's fine. So there we have it. Plug in on that end. Plug this into the wall. And then we'll check. I have to screw this down first. After I screw this down first, I'm going to figure out what to do with the plate and what to use for a stopper here. Perfectly set now. Try it again. It is exactly 105. Okay, so here we are. Coming to the final stretch. I found an old hair clip. Bent it over, reinforced it, worked it on the vise. Put double-sided tape on the back of it and found a locking washer and bolt and drilled through here, and I've got it. You can see it's quite steady. I'm pushing on it quite hard, so it's not going anywhere. On the cap, you can see I drilled through the cap. It doesn't require a locking washer actually, because it's doesn't move that much, and it's just a piece of plastic. So we line it up with 0. Make sure it's as far as it can go. Make sure that's on 0. Try that. Okay. When we see when it turns, it stops exactly where we marked it off. So the client's safe and everybody's happy. There we see the front. Here's our plug and here's our outlet. All condensed in a nice little case and not expensive. Okay? So this is a great solution if you know, you play at home and you want something that is very versatile. Get yourself a Variac and wire it up like that. Okay? Have a good one.